houses, we walk down and flush them out. We don't play it with the
Welcome to the Hearts of Men podcast, a journey into the depths of men's hearts where courage meets vulnerability and wisdom embraces integrity. In a world that often measures a man by his outer achievements, this podcast dares to explore what truly defines a man of character. We unpack the challenges and triumphs that shape men's lives, bringing to light stories of resilience, compassion, and unshakable faith. We believe that the heart of a man is a treasure trove of untold stories, powerful lessons, and profound wisdom. Through authentic dialogues and insightful discussions, we aim to unlock these treasures, one story at a time. So, whether you're seeking guidance, inspiration, or simply a moment of reflection, you're in the right place. Get ready to be challenged, inspired, and transformed. And now, to guide you through this journey of discovery, please welcome your host, a visionary leader and a true catalyst for change, Dwayne Dwyer, but we affectionately know him as the Mindset Coach.
I apologize. Good evening, family. Man, welcome to another night of the Hearts of Men podcast. Man, I am ecstatic because, of course, I am here with my brothers, but I am your host for the night, Tawami Gaddy, known as Son of Timothy and the Available Man. Joined here by my big brothers. Right above me is the Unk with the Funk, the Uncle Jr., also known as the Consistency Coach. Dwayne Dwyer, the man, the source, like I can't even get the word the source out, right? the source himself, also known as the Mindset Coach. You know, I gotta mess with my brother. And my big bro over here on the side of me, don't know what side he's on, but my poor man's Dr. Phil, also known as Shift Happens. And we ready for this conversation, brothers? How y'all doing tonight?
Can't hear you, Unc.
I was hoping it wasn't just me.
No. Okay. Well, hey, I'm doing all right. Just waiting to see where this thing goes. And I see when you said I'm ecstatic, I was like, man, that is his ecstatic face. That's true. That he lives, man.
I'm doing well too. My mic is working. My settings are adjusted, so I am ready to get into the topic. I'm ready to get in conversation. I've had a great week. I've already had some vittles with the old lady, and I'm ready to get this party started.
Yeah, I'm with everybody. All is well. I always look forward to these Friday night conversations, interacting with not just you guys as the panel members, my brothers, but also the awesomest chat. It's always good to see them on this International Singles Awareness Day. So that being said, it is what it is.
I love that International Singles Awareness, man. With that said, I was getting ready to address the livest chat here on the YouTube itself, or whatever social media platform you are viewing us from. I was going to take a key from Uncle Junior and ask Coach if you would welcome the chat to the conversation.
Hey man, I feel
Shout
like
'em
y'all be
out.
abusing me. Y'all be abusing me. I'm gonna start saying no. No, I'm joking. Hey, listen, as always, like I said, it's good to see you guys. And so, of course, on this channel, we like to make sure that we call you guys by name and give you your flowers while you're here. So that being said, Crystal Ever, good to see you and welcome to this evening's show. Lisa Keys, welcome. His Divine Appointment, good to see you. Welcome. Nick D, good to see you and welcome. Abe, good to see you, brother, and welcome to this evening's show. Let's see. I don't want to leave anybody out. Miss Charlotte Jordan, good to see you and welcome to the show. Still searching. Don't want to leave anybody. I want to say I got everybody, but if I missed you, I do apologize. Oh, Miss Nodella Jordan. There you go. Almost missed you. Good to see you and welcome to the show. And again, if you have not said hello, but whatever platform you're on, whether you're YouTube, whether you're Facebook, Instagram, get in the chat, just say hello, because again, we'd like to acknowledge you. So that said, yes, International Singles Awareness Day. It happens every year, February 14th. Good to see you, Miss Teresa Austin. Welcome to the show. Okay, I'm done. You got the mic now.
All right, well, let's get on with the show. Let's get started. So welcome to what I look at as our third episode in our Black History Month repertoire as we go through these topics that are very important and very paramount to our community. Today, we're talking about the keys to breaking generational patterns. I don't care where you grew up in these United States, there are patterns that we have seen that have come down and grown through the generations in our community. And today we want to tackle and at least start the conversation, if not get us to the mindset to start the action of how do we go forward and begin to break these patterns, break what the old folks used to call generational curses, and get our community on the right track so that we can be prosperous, we can stand strong, and we don't have to think of ourselves as anything other than the great Americans that we are and the way that we present ourselves to the people. With that said, it's time for us to get into this conversation. So let's go. Let's roll with it. If you let's jump into the first question right off the bat. I'm leaning on my brothers right off the bat, right? So can you identify some generational patterns that exist today, that, or at least that we see, that we can see in today's society?
Yep, I can. And I know that we're going to be talking about breaking generation, but you didn't ask for a negative one in this situation. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you a positive one. And I'm going to start with myself. And it is not to toot my own horn, but one of the things that we talk about often is how we don't have any financial literacy, so financial knowledge in our culture. Well, I didn't get any of that information. I didn't learn. My parents didn't teach me about finances or anything like that. No shade. They taught me with what they had. Right. But since then, I've learned some things. And since then, I have seen some of these things come to fruition in my own son's life. When I've seen papers that come through from the military that have their name on it and their rank on it, and it says TSP on it. So I'm like, well, they listened to something. At least they started their TSP, or they started a retirement fund within the first 2 months of them being in the military. So I say that to say is that sometimes we always talk about the breaking of the curses and the negative of the things. So I just kind of want to spend a positive light on it. It's saying that, like I said, I'm not here to toot my own horn, and I'm not saying that they're perfect or that I'm perfect or that I've learned every single thing or mastered any sort of financial literacy. I'm still learning, I'm still growing, but I am saying that at least I can see signs of the patterns and the different things starting to shift as I look at my sons and how they're starting to move in their own personal lives as they starting to grow up.
Unc, I love that one because that's exactly where I was going. I even grabbed the book Powernomics now. But I'll go with education. I think sometimes within our community, we celebrate those who come out of situations where they were incarcerated. We celebrate them, but then someone gets a degree, a higher level degree, or whatever, when it comes to their education, even trade school graduations or whatever it may be, we don't celebrate them as much as we celebrate those that survived on the inside or behind bars or things like that. And I think that not that we need to turn it totally, but we need to celebrate those that attempt to go and attain higher education and different degrees in their learning within their lives.
Yeah, I like that as well, because I was intentional about choosing the negative side. It would have been easy to go there. I am going to say the endless pursuit of meaning when I start there. Like I think what we're seeing now is more people looking for meaning when it comes down to life, looking for their life to be meaningful, looking to leave an impact, looking to be impactful to other people other than themselves. Like, sure, there's the other side of that as well, but I don't even want to talk about that. I want to talk about like this side of the pattern, this side of the pattern where you have more people who are not choosing complacency. They're choosing to be impactful. They're choosing to, what is the so what of it all when it comes down to my life? Like, what was I put on this earth for? You're hearing a lot more of that now. People wanting to find and define their purpose. So that's where I will go with this one.
I like that. Y'all kind of threw that monkey wrench on the positive side, right? Because you're right, it is definitely easy to go towards the negative, right? Because we talk about these things all the time, but the positive, I like that. And then Ro, you kind of brought up education. I got a friend who's in the education system, and they moved from teaching in the classroom to being an administrator of some sort, because curriculum wise, they didn't, you can't break curriculum to help the students learn better or grow better. You have to stick there. And so that's a real thing. So I like that you brought that out. And so I guess I guess I can still push forward, but I wanted to point out there was some stuff in the chat that I saw, and I wanted to. What happened?
You want to get to the chat, or can I chime in?
Oh, you was trying to point. Okay,
Yeah,
it looked a different way for me. Okay, my bad.
no,
Go ahead.
I was give you my church finger.
Oh, my bad.
No, I want to go back to what Roland said about education. And then you also mentioned something about education. Well, I'm in education. I'm a high school counselor. So Roland, can you go a little bit more in depth about what you mean when it comes to education? The reason why I want to stop right here or pause right here a little bit, I'm not trying to take over the show, is just because like what we're doing right here, good, bad, or indifferent, or however you may be seeing it, someone may see this podcast and see this as education, whether it is or whether it's not, right? So when we're talking about education, what do you mean when you're talking about education?
I think any avenue where someone is actually learning something that will benefit them in life, whether it be trade
in the
school,
public school system.
right? Not just the public or private school system, not just trade schools, not just higher education. I think we celebrate people for things that are detrimental to us more than we do people that are actually learning. We'll say, "Oh, you on that little podcast," or we demean those things. We look down on them sometimes within our community. And I think that there are a lot of us out here that see you striving to do better and simply want to encourage.
So I wrote down because now you said encourage again, right? So right before then you said something why um about celebrating. So why do we need to celebrate? So if I ask all of you right here, all three of you men right here, and I say, and you guys go out there for 3 days and you go out there and help the homeless, or you pick up trash, or you go out there and you earn a degree. None of you guys up here, I guarantee you, at least from what I think of you, none of you guys feel like you need or want to be celebrated, right? But then we say that we need to celebrate people in our community. So just for me, I really want to understand. I'm really not trying to sharpshoot or anything like this. I really want to understand because I hear it both ways. And really just trying to understand, like, what do we mean? Like, do we celebrate? Because I don't need anybody to pat me on the back or celebrate me for anything. You know
Right.
what I mean?
You
When
may
I
not
accomplish
need it,
something,
but the human, not just male or female, but the human psyche is fragile in a sense. And some people may need that extra push, or to know that somebody's watching me, somebody's actually encouraged by this, and they may need that extra little oomph to say, okay, because you see when Meek get out and Big Meech get out and they sitting up there, oh, Big Meech home, this, that, and the other. You see where people have done things to the community and they celebrate them, but then you out there like, man, I'm doing all this trying to make it better. And so it's a psyche thing, it's a psychological thing, not just well, I don't need a pat on the back, because it lets me know that I'm not in this alone.
I see what you're saying. Then it's like, like you're saying, people celebrate this negative things, but not celebrate things that's over here. So almost like in a comparison about this is what we should really be celebrating, and this is what we should kind of be not necessarily celebrating as much. I get it.
I think when we talk about celebrating one another, it's a little deeper than me and you, right? At least for me, I look at it when if I'm celebrating you, whether or not you think you need to be celebrated, it's about the impact that you're bringing and that you make, the willingness to actually do something. That's what we're celebrating. Right. So we're celebrating you, but we're celebrating the impact. And I think when you celebrate the impact, it allows us not to lose sight of the impact. The day that you transition from here, we don't want to forget the impact. We want that to live on. We want someone to come and take that mantle. But what I realize is when people are not celebrated, people are not prone to come behind them because they feel as if, well, what they did either wasn't good or wasn't appreciated. So why do it? But we need someone to come take the medicine. Sometimes celebrating someone allows someone that's in the crowd to see that celebration and see how that person being treated and say, well, I can make an impact. I can do something like that. I don't have to just sit on my hand. But go ahead.
I'm not trying to make this longer, but when we celebrate birthdays and all you did was live another day, you woke up. That's it. But you appreciate when somebody acknowledges your birthday, acknowledges your anniversary. Yeah, you did a good job. So it doesn't necessarily, it's not your mantle, but because if you are in a space where you are trying to encourage people to do better, it's just the right thing to do. Sometimes you just got to do that.
I was about to ask. I was just about to ask.
In the middle.
I was, because we kind of stuck in a positive a little bit. I was about to jump past that second question, but I do want to address some of the things that were brought up in the chat. Someone talked about unforgiveness being passed down through generations. Someone, I think it was Lisa, who brought up we adopt behaviors from our peers and from others. I saw manipulation in there, and then I saw broken homes and relationships. Um, I really, I really want to y'all can address whichever one, but I really want to address, if someone can, the adopt behavior from peers. It can that because I can see how that can be problematic. Uh, if someone can address how can that be problematic, but can it also be a good thing?
I think it could be a good thing because I look at how you guys do certain things, studiousness or whatever it may be, and I try to add that to my life. I try to add the positive because if there's a negative, I try not to focus on it. I try not to go that route because everybody knows negatives. But what can I gain if I'm hanging around some people? I got to be able to say, man, coach said this today, and that made it move me to where I want to change me because that's the only person I can change, really. So I try to focus on those things.
I look at it as, are we a product of our society, or is our society a product of us? And what I mean by that is this: when you look at your peers, if you're the one who go into church, right? Do you always go to the club with them? They never go to church with you. So if you're adopting their behaviors, what side of the coin are you on in that situation? So what behaviors are you adopting from your peers? I don't have a problem with adopting behaviors from peers. If I'm up here and all four of us is up here, and I've learned from Roland that, you know, not interrupting when people talking is a good thing, and that's how he is every time I come on this show. This is how he is. Then yeah, it's okay to adopt those types of behaviors from peers, because that's an example of an effective type of communication. So I don't have any problem with adopting behaviors from my peers as long as they're positive and or beneficial to our overall outcome.
See, that's where I was with this. I don't. I think this is just a part of human development. So we ultimately don't have a choice. You're going to adapt, and I'm going to change that word just a little bit. You're going to adapt to your environment. You should adapt to your environment. Part of that adaptation is looking at wanted behaviors that actually move you higher along the plane that you're progressing on. It moves the needle more favorably in your direction because other people may know how to do a thing that you may not know how to do. Case in point, we talk about emotional intelligence all the time. Well, if you see a person exercising emotional intelligence in a moment, knowing good and well if that was me, I would have fly off the handle, then maybe I can look at how that person handled themselves and start practicing some of those things for myself. So I don't necessarily see this as a negative thing, but of course it's the law of polarity. If there is negative, there's also positive. So the other side of it is that some of us also adopt unwanted behaviors based upon some of the things that we participate in, some of the things that we listen to, some of the things that we consume ourselves with. The perceptions of certain things, we glorify certain things, and because the social world glorify those things, we spend a whole lot of time talking about those things, ingesting those things, and then those things tend to play over and over in our psyche. So again, this is a double-edged sword. Sure, absolutely, we do that 100%, but I think it's part of the human development process.
I like that. I definitely do. I think I'm with all of you, really. Uh, yes, sir.
Coach, but coach, you saying, like, so what you're saying is just because we adapt, it doesn't necessarily mean that we change who we are, correct? Or
No,
we
it
may evolve, but it's not an
so
absolute.
right. So doing a thing differently doesn't necessarily change your identity. And if it changes my identity, I didn't have a good understanding of my identity to begin with. And I think that's a lot of space. And I'm glad you asked that because I think that's the space that we exist in a lot. Let's just say I see you do a thing and I want to do the thing that you're doing. So I got to practice it in order to get to the point to where I learn how to do it. That's just what life is all about. But then you hear people say, oh, well, you got to be yourself. Well, what does that really mean? Like no
Yeah.
one really can articulate what be yourself mean. It's just something good to say. It's like saying, like you go through a bad relationship, and then my response to you is like, oh, I just want you to be happy. That is the most meaningless thing that we tell people because we have no earthly idea the meaning behind it, nor do they. It's just something I tell you to feel good in the moment because I don't know what to say. So doing a thing because you see somebody else to do a thing does not mean that you're giving up your identity and I'm adorning the identity of Uncle Junior. No, that's not what it is. Paul himself said, follow me as I follow Christ. So he is telling them to replicate what you see me do until you get to the point of learning how to do it yourself. When we get to that point and understanding that and stop ingesting some of these false prophets out there to try to tell us how to live our lives, right? Then we'll get to the point of realizing like this person don't know what they're talking about. This person is still trying to find themselves, so they shouldn't even be giving advice. But at the end of the day, why not listen to somebody who's trying to point you in the right direction? Just makes sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. We gotta. I think when we're finding the right thing to adapt to, the positive things to adapt to, it's not going to change who I am. It just changes how I behave in certain situations or how I move because I'm who I am. My heart is the way it is. I treat people the way I treat people, but I do adapt to things when stuff is exposed to me that is positive for me. Scripture exposes things to me. I adapt my life to scripture. But I do recognize the personality that is built in me. Now there might be some negative traits that I got to get out of me, but and I think when we work on ourselves as that too. When you get rid of a behavior, sometimes you're looking for the new way. Well, how do I do this thing then? If how I used to behave was wrong, the only way I do that is yes through the word, but also by watching our peers. So I agree there because at least for me, there's certain things in the scripture I need to see acted out. It when I first tried to adapt to it, it didn't make plain sense in text. So, you had something, Ro?
Oh no, I think all four of us were in the military, and when you met a leader, good, bad, and different, somebody at some point told you, okay, if it's something that you can use, put that in your toolbox. So with those that you meet, because we're on social media, so we see the negatives, we see the craziness, we see everything. But if it's not something that you can actually use in your life to make it better, we're mature enough to know, okay, that's over there. I discard that. That's not something I can use for the betterment of me or my people. So I'm not going to use it. And I think it's a maturing process. When you are learning who you are, it's an ever learning process. It's not like, oh, I know who I am today and I got it all. No, I'm going to change tomorrow, not change who I am, but change in my maturing process. So what I used to find funny 5 years ago, I may not find it funny today.
Agree. I do want to go to the next question, but I want to read these that I pulled out of the chat again, and um, along with whatever else you think of. But we talked about unforgiveness being passed down, uh, adopting behavior from our peers, manipulation, broken relationships and broken homes was brought up, and so with those things in mind, because I agree, I see it everywhere. Manipulation, I don't know if it. Yeah, I guess it would be passed down generationally. But my question is how are these things generational? Because I think that might be a confusion to some people. It might just be, well, no, coach just act the way coach is. But how are some of these things generational patterns versus just someone's individual behavior?
I think going back to what I said previously, human development and human behavior. When you're young, you're taught from your parent. That's your core teacher. That's the one that teaches you a majority of the things that you know at the years of your life to where you're most pliable and you accept pretty much everything. And in fact, it's like you couldn't even fathom your parent telling you an untruth. And then as time progresses, that then becomes your foundational understanding of reality. So then moving forward into your adolescent years, whether we're talking young adolescent, middle adolescent, or your later adolescent years, that foundational teaching is still there until you make a very deliberate effort to change it. Some of that stuff, and I was just talking about this the other day, I can't remember with who, but sometimes parents teach lessons through the lens of the pain that they went through when they went through the experience instead of teaching the lesson that they learned from the experience. And when they teach through the lens of the pain that they went through the experience, what they're doing is they're passing that pain down to their children. And now that child has now internalized that pain as a lesson. It is a very dangerous game. Now, the other side of that can be true as well, because for those people who were raised with parents who had these understandings and they understood emotional intelligence and things of that nature, they taught their children through the lens of that. So now they're teaching the lessons that the children need. So when we ask how are they generational, what you're seeing are patterns and patterns of behavior that exist in multiple generations. So that's my answer for that one.
Me having a bunch of sisters, my grandmother, I guess because of what happened in relationships with her, she always told them, "Girl, you better save you some money on the side. Better have your stash for just in case." And it's preparing her to run, preparing her to get out of Dodge just in case something happened. She always got something on the side, and I think what that teaches is that teaches you, one, to be deceptive, to be a liar, and to be neglectful to your marriage because of what happened in your relationships. So that's one of the ways it's generational when it's taught down from grandmother to mother to daughter, and it's continued and it's made as truth or a wise fable. What it's made is that instead of something that happened to you, and now, as Dwayne was saying earlier.
How are they generational? I think they're generational based off, all the things that you learned throughout the generations from your parents, your aunties, your uncles, your grandparents as well. You know what I mean? I want to say that these people are included as well. When you go to family functions and in your culture, y'all do cookouts, you know what I mean? Or y'all do family reunions, or y'all do bar mitzvahs, or y'all do whatever it is that you do in whatever different particular culture. Some of these things are part of the generational too. So there are also moods, when you see someone every so often they start acting a certain type of way, you start developing and can start picking up on some of those same moods and behaviors and different things like that as well. So I think all of those things are generational, just all of the different things that you learn, all of the behaviors, all of the exposure to certain different things and different places, all of those things are generational. And I think that culture kind of is weaved in here some too, especially if you come from a place where you can really trace your generation or your heritage back and y'all have really strong cultural roots. You have like those certain Italians who only believe that if your pasta ain't homemade, then it ain't pasta. You know what I mean? Like if grandma don't make the potato salad, then it ain't good. You know what I mean? Certain things that go deep, they go way back. You know what I mean? So I think all of those things, like I said, to include the grandmas and the aunties and all of those people as well.
But my grandma made good potato salad. I'm just saying.
Is she?
Yeah, man.
Any of y'all
Hey,
grandma
I was
put
going.
raisins in it?
You about to start something?
Shout out to all the people who put raisins in their potato salad.
Nah, I don't think we should shout that out. Not tonight.
Wrong
It's
platform.
February. It's February. We ain't shouting that out. I'm joking. Man, but no, I agree, and I'm glad y'all brought that out. Because some things. So I do have two sides of it actually. So I do believe that it's things that are passed down generation to generation, right? That we carry over. But when we say generational patterns, I do believe that a generation can create a pattern. So it's this entire, because every generation has had a thing about them, right? And so I look at it as that too. Like we have this generation that does this, and those of us who have been around a little longer than that generation, we look and we say, well, that's problematic. That's not going to work for tomorrow, or it might benefit, right? So I look at, there was a day to where education and higher education was very, very big in our community, but a generation came to where that didn't happen. We stopped. The education system changed. The way that we viewed education changed. Access to information and education changed. A lot has changed. So that created a whole new generational pattern to where if you want to hide something from a black man, you put it in a book. Because that wasn't my grandfather's generation. That was my father's generation passed down to us. You know what I'm saying? So I do believe that generational patterns can exist, can start somewhere in that, like, or start in a particular generation. But that's just
all right.
That's just me. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
All right. So I'm about to do it again. All right.
He about to ask which generation created the potato salad. I knew he was going to do it.
No, they did. They did. Somebody passed it down, and somebody passed the one with raisins down too. I'm just saying, somebody passed it down. It had to start somebody. It had to start somewhere with somebody. But here's, as we were talking about generation, I think one of the things that comes up in the counseling department just in general is, alcoholics, right? So addiction, right? So some people say that addiction is genetics. Some people say it's environmental. And then people say, oh, well, we got to break these generational curses, right? So when it comes to like addiction, right? We hear so many different things. So when we looking at discovering the keys to breaking generational patterns, how do we know if they're a generational pattern versus genetics versus their environment? Because you see what I'm saying? Like, because we see the alcoholic, we see the parent, the alcoholic, right? And then we see the child who grows up and the child becomes an alcoholic. And they say, oh, well, some people depend on where you're at. If you're in a certain church circle, they may say, oh, well, that's a generational curse. Y'all got to break that generational curse, right? If you go in another section or a scientific section or sector, they may say, well, that's a genetics issue. There's nothing you can do about it. That's genetics. And then you may go somewhere else that someone may not believe that and say, oh, no, that's all environmental. So in order for us to be able to break generational patterns, I think we need to be able to figure out what's generational versus what's genetics versus what is environmental. And I don't know. Because it all seemed kind of weaved in there together to me. Because I'm at home and I see mama drinking.
I'm 100% on board, and I wasn't going to touch it. I really wasn't. But I cringe when I hear the notion of generational curses, right? And I think I go back and just use the alcohol thing. I think we can all kind of search our family history, and you'll find a person in our family that was like addicted to something, whether it was alcohol, whether it was drugs, whether it was sex, it doesn't really matter. They were addicted to something. But here's the truth of the matter, if I can be completely transparent. Everybody is addicted to something. Just because Paw was addicted to alcohol, that may not necessarily be my thing. So if Paw was addicted to alcohol and I'm not addicted to alcohol, does that make it generational? Or say my brother's addicted to alcohol, did it skip over me and jumped on him? Like I do agree with what you're saying 100%. And I think some of it is kind of like the notion of generational curses is a generational curse. It's been passed along and given and such, right? Even when we talked about the changes in the environment, whether it's socioeconomics, whatever the case may be, but that's that I can't say that that was a generational spark. There was something that was injected into the matrix that caused the generation to adapt to the matrix to create this thing that they now do. So if we only take it and say, well, the generation is responsible for this and the generation is, we're missing the big picture because there's something behind the scenes that provoked something else to happen. And so just because, and I go all the way back, just because my ancestors, they were raised up on pig feet, hog maw, collard greens, all that other great stuff, right? That was their way of life. It was passed down because that's what they taught their children to teach. That's what they taught them. I mean, and that's how they taught them to cook. So when they got to that point of cooking, then it got passed down from generation to generation. But then at some point, somebody said, hey, you know what? There's this thing called clean eats. I'm going to start eating like that because that is more healthy, even though Big Mama lived to be 102, right? But that's more healthy. And so then that person said, hey, instead of doing that, I'm going to do this. I may do a little bit of this, but I'm going to do it now in moderation. So I cringe with the notion of generational curses, not saying that things aren't passed down from generation to generation to generation, because somebody still got that tin can in their cabinet with Big Mama cooking recipes in it. That's that is a tradition, a family tradition that is passed down from generation to generation. And we use that tin can to teach everybody who come in the kitchen to cook during the holidays. Because we want to make, y'all seen that movie with Sam, what's his name? Danny Glover, trying to make his wife sweet potato pie, and he kept making it over and over again, and at the end he got it right. It's the same concept. And I think that's it. But I cringe with the curse thing because I think at any given point in time, whenever anybody makes up their mind, they can pull themselves out of previously taught habit and change their habit into something more profound for them.
I love it, and I think it's kind of both. It's not just one thing. So when it comes to genetics, your genetic makeup is one thing, but I'm with Coach, whereas Big Mama may have been addicted to snuff. That don't mean you're going to be addicted to snuff. And if you want to go to scripture, in scripture, we all like to quote that part in the scripture where it says that you will have, if you do this, I'll bless you with this. But if you don't do this, I'll curse you with this. We don't understand how when you don't do what the word says, certain things are coming to you, period, point blank. So outside of that, some of us have addictive behaviors to where, like, I grew up around where everyone was addicted to some type of substance, everyone. So I tried to stay away from it. But then I find myself having addictive natures in other things. It's all about what you desire and what you want, what fulfills a need that you think is a need within you. And that's why you have to consistently be looking to mature, be looking to better yourself to where you see the things that are tearing you down, tearing your family apart, and you decide, hey, I don't want to do that. Like Dwayne was talking, like nobody loved bacon more than me. But after something happened, now I say, man, I can't eat that. Before the show, me and Coach up there talking about juicing recipes. Back in the day, I'd have been like, you crazy. Fry me a pork chop sandwich, put some Miracle Whip on some bread, slap between some bread, and then I'm good with some hot sauce. That's what my conversation was. But something happened to make me say, hey, this is a better way for me to live. And that's in everything that you do. You got to look and say, okay, what's the best way for me to live? So it's not a generational curse because what's the curse? The curse is me habitually doing the same thing that they did. And if it was a curse, that means that I can't break it. That means that I gotta this. Somebody else has to do something about this. But I can do something about that. I can stop eating pork, and I can stop drinking excessively. I can stop doing those things. Some people, because you've done it so long, you're like, I can't stop that. But then when I realized that I was a slave to food, oh man, I gotta have some meat on my plate. I gotta have this, and I'm giving it away. I'm giving the power to the thing and saying that I'm weak. And anytime you're looking in the mirror and saying you weak, you're responsible for it.
Yeah, I think the thing that makes it seem as if it can be genetic is because of what I'm exposed to. Yeah, at some point we could say I can make the choice to not do a thing, and I can make the choice to do a thing. But if there's a choice to be made and there's no dichotomy, then there's just that choice. So if all I knew as far as addictive behavior was alcohol, and when I needed something to lean on, all I saw was alcohol. You know, what's the other vice? So some people lean to alcohol because that's what they know. They seen somebody drown their sorrows out that way, and when they needed something to lean on, that's what they leaned on. A lot of us went to church. When I became an adult, I went to church because I just always went to church. That was something I just knew. The rent gonna get paid if I go to church. That's how I felt. So we went to church because that's what we were taught to lean on. Somewhere along the line, I got exposed by looking at stuff myself, by not only seeing what my family exposed to me, but I see what actually was actually there, was actually written, was actually what's actually out there. And until you get out of your environment, I think that's why earlier someone brought up we are all in one way or the other influenced by our environment. So whether we want to say I'm not influenced by my environment because I didn't, but watch it like who was it? Nodell, I'm with you. I want all my siblings, they like to drink. Being the baby of a litter, I didn't take on that vice, but my community influenced me. I saw my brothers drunk. I saw my fathers drunk. They weren't the same people that they were sober, and I didn't want to be that. So I didn't take on that vice, but I'm still a product of my environment through that. Yes, let's highlight these comments. His divine appointment. Good evening, sis. She said, "Is there a such thing as an addictive behavior?" I saw that one too. I was ready for that one. What say you, brothers?
I say yes, absolutely.
Yes.
That's such thing as an addicting behavior.
I think that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, so I'm about to say that's all I've been talking about so far.
Yep. I believe so. And I think they come in all different shapes and sizes. They come in good and bad. And addictive behavior for most people, whether you call it a habit almost, is brushing your teeth. But then you also have the people that may brush 5 times a day, but it may be 10 times a day for whatever reason. So I think that, addictive behavior comes in all different shapes, sizes, and forms, and not all of them, well, they're not all created equal. I mean, sometimes people addictive behavior get them to, put people on the moon. I ain't going there tonight. Mute my mic.
But I'm not going
on the real, like people who can be super focused on something like that, if you have a really addictive type of behavior, sometimes you can really focus and dial in on certain things and over and over and over and over and over. Like imagine somebody like playing the game, like until they really get it right.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely see that, but that's why I think that's why Coach said we all have some level of addictive behavior. We all because we're not our vices aren't drugs or alcohol don't mean that we don't have that type of behavior. It's
Right.
something that we.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, my bad. Did you have anything on this one, Coach?
Yeah. What I was about to say, like generally when this is spoken about, it has to, like, not saying that what was previously said is wrong. Like anything can be an addictive behavior. Like I can generally be addicted to success if I'm being transparent. However, generally when this is discussed, it has to be something along the lines of having a negative outcome. So knowing that a thing has a negative outcome, but I do it anyway, kind of like playing the lottery or gambling or something of that nature. So generally, that's kind of like when we talk about addictive behavior, then that's generally what it is. Like knowing it has a negative outcome and still doing it, smoking cigarettes. They talk about lung cancer all the time, but still yet we still, still smoke cigarettes. So that's kind of like generally what we're talking about.
And some people have the addictive behavior to once they get up in the morning, they grab that device. They got to get on and see what people said and see what somebody else is doing. And you get on social media. It's like you ain't even brushed your teeth yet, and you jump on something to see what somebody else is doing and how somebody else is living. Instead of getting your day started, then you're like, man, where did the time go? Because your nature has told you, because you've done this thing, and it puts some satisfaction in you somewhere down the line. Like, man, I'm laughing, I'm kikiing, I'm having fun, and 2 hours went by because your addictive behavior has now said that when I get up in the morning, I got to do this first. Instead of reading, instead of praying, instead of doing something productive, you decide to do this thing. And when you continue to decide to do whatever that thing is that takes you away, then it becomes an addictive behavior, an addictive nature thing.
Yeah, with the personality, that's called charisma.
And you are very charismatic. Y'all are. And that's why, I mean, come on. That's one of those things. Some people like that. And some people, they gotta have it though. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Let's help our brother out over here. Let's bring up that other comment.
Which comment?
Real quick. Was it
Yes.
Charlotte Jordan? She said food is the biggest addiction, but folks don't want to acknowledge it. Unc, you want to hit this one first?
Yeah, I would just say, yeah, it is a big addiction for a lot of folks, and one of the biggest reasons why, like, unlike alcohol and cigarettes, you can avoid those. If you run out of money, you can't buy no cigarettes, you can't buy no alcohol. You can get rid of those. You know what I mean? In a sense. However, when it comes to food, you have to eat. So that's something that you have to think about. So you can't just not eat forever. You know what I mean? Eventually, you know what I mean? You can not drink forever. You can not smoke forever. So that's why for food it's so hard for people to get around it and lose the weight. And that's why it's so hard for people to have success when it comes to food in general.
And also with food, I think that's one of those things you learn from birth. You learn your mother, your grandmother, whomever it is that's raising you, they're feeding you. So you see those babies that you 3 months old and you 70 pounds. It's like, come on now, you what you're doing is you establishing diabetes already in this kid, because now you putting sugar on everything, you making it sweeter for the child, and now they going to sleep with a bottle of juice, a bottle of Kool-Aid, and then they 6 years old with a mouthful of silver teeth and things of that nature, and you're like, man, what? Well, diabetes just runs in my family, and that's not the case. What happens is that same. I think somebody said willpower. Where's the willpower? The willpower to do better, the willpower to change, and sometimes just the knowledge, the mere knowledge ain't there.
That's why I said anything can be an addiction. Like, I mean, you talk about food. I mean, You can be as disciplined as you want to, but then Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, all those things, and then next thing you know, the things that were passed on to you from generation to generation. Oh well, I'm gonna eat. Does that? Yeah, that's it. I mean,
What you putting on the grill?
You got to put some ribs on the grill, bro. You can't have no ribs. You can't have no grill if you ain't gonna put no ribs and no chicken on the grill. It's just what it is.
Right.
But I'll go a step further. Today is an addiction for a lot of people. You got people who woke up today and say, "Oh, I need to have this gift and I need to have this gift." You had people running around for the past couple of weeks like, "I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this." Why? Because if I don't, you know what I'm saying? So, these holidays like this right here is an addiction because you are conditioned to do a thing. And if you don't, you feel that there's going to be a negative outcome.
Coach, you put a whole nother spin on something just now. I don't want to derail, but just saying that just made me think though. While you were saying that, we talked a while back about certain things when it comes to relationships, and I just thought about it like, man, a lot of women are addicted to the fantasy, that fairy tale that they told themselves about their dream love life when they were kids, being Ken and Barbie and going on trips and getting and anniversaries being a big thing, Christmas being. If people are, that has become an addiction, and that's why a lot of people hold their significant others captive to their fantasy, is because they're addicted to that fantasy. They dreamt it up for so long that they can't envision life without it. And that puts a whole nother spin on trying to address it, because we're addressing it as simply bad behavior. Not saying it ain't, but it's an addiction. But we got to roll on. I don't want to lose all my time. Let's go to the next question, which is, what role does media and entertainment play when it comes to generation?
I'll do that one. Ooh. We just had a great example past Sunday. How many times y'all went to social media and heard dun 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 dun, and you've been humming it all week long, and everybody kept. I mean, what more do I really need to say? Like, it has a huge impact on just people in general. Like, you hear one thing and it's played at the right time, and generally it causes like almost like a movement just based upon one song that has been out for months. The song has been out, but people are acting like this is the first time they ever heard the song. Now, I understand it's not just the song, it is also the ocular aesthetics that goes along with it as well, right? So now you got people out there trying to do the little dance and all kind of other things of that nature. Like, yeah, this is huge. I can't even. I'll talk all night about this, but I'm a pause and let the other brothers jump in as well.
Yeah, I got something to say. Speaking of the generations, and we talking about media and entertainment. All y'all, if y'all out there listen, go grab your grandmas, your aunties, all the women in your family, right? And then play this. Cash Money Records taking over for the 99 and the 2000. Everybody already know what's going to happen. We talking about media and entertainment. Everybody know what go on after that song come on. I ain't trying to twist the conversation. I just want to be funny for a little bit. But yeah, media and entertainment plays a huge part. And I'm looking at media. I'm looking at how media has changed too over the years. Right now we have social media. Back in the day we had TV and the news. Before then we had like newspapers and radio. So the way that we get information has changed throughout the years. So the information and what we had access to 20, 30 years ago is totally different than the amount of information that we have access to now. So when it comes to generations, part of the problem is the communication between the generations, right? So when it comes to, I'm just media, I'm not going to talk about entertainment, I'm talking about media specifically. When it comes to media specifically, I think we're getting different information sometimes depend on where you're at. I'm looking at, I work in a high school. I'm a high school counselor. So the information that these students are getting is different than what, your 75-year-old grandma is still maybe listening to on her radio. You know what I mean? She might still be watching the news or the TV. So she still may be watching her same favorite broadcast network channel that she's been watching for the last 40 years. You know what I'm saying? So she's getting limited access. And then you have people like in our group in the 40s and the 50s, you know what I mean? Who are watching, who are on certain social media, who may not be on as much things as someone, say, maybe in their late 20s or in early 30s. They may be on a whole bunch of different more platforms. So I think that over the generations, whether it comes to breaking paths or any of these things, I just think that we have to somehow figure out how to navigate between those, and just be able to communicate better between the generations. And I think that in itself would help bridge some of these gaps that we have and help break some of these generational paths that we have. Some of it is just communication.
You gave the wrong song. You should have said somebody like Gerald Levert or the OJs or something.
Teddy Pendergrass.
There you go, Teddy Pendergrass. They'll know that one. Now they'll know that one.
Okay, I ain't think we had nobody here Teddy P's age.
Hey, TV, television.
Charlotte Jordan over there lying. I'm calling her out right now. Lying. You know what that song is.
I ain't messing with it. But television programming, and I wrote it earlier. I don't know if I put it in here or the chat, where every show that you watch nowadays, when they want to chill, relax, or whatever, they got a bottle of wine, they got some liquor, they got a bar. So it's teaching you in order to relax. And since the 70s, when things start, they realized that, hey, we can stimulate the minds, because everybody watched those Super Bowl commercials. It didn't make you want to go and buy anything, but back in the day, it used to make you want to go. Like I'd be watching football, and they got Adams on there with a Taco Bell in his house, and then they brought some nuggets. I'm like, man, I gotta go try them nuggets at Taco Bell. Worst decision in my month that month, but that they show you these things, and not like if I like beef, and they showing that Whopper flame broil, and it ain't coming out like that, but I see it on TV and I'm gonna go buy it. 2 for $5 and all these things. They know that with the more we put this in front of you, the more you will relax around it. And then it's like, man, it ain't that bad. It's something that I'll try that. So when it comes to media and entertainment, we're entertained by things where I may not like a song, but you hear it over and over and over. You turn on the radio, every hour that song gonna be played at least once, and then the next person come on, a new song by the same song I just heard, but every hour you gonna get it's on repeat, and it makes you may not like it, but you bobbing your head to it. You may not even think about it. That's like the Migos or something. I can't understand the word, but now it's like, okay, it's the beat I like. Nah, you listening to this stuff, and now it's done got in your head, and it's done encouraged you to look at it like it ain't that bad. So it plays a heck of a role.
I agree. When we talk about media and we talk about entertainment, I think the culture that we're in now, most of the things that we say, we regurgitate or we believe, and I'm not talking about us in this panel, but just the generations that we're in, we get all of our information from the media. The only people we live, if a popular entertainer didn't say it and it wasn't in my textbook at school, I don't believe it. So I think we've taken on that. I'm not going to say that much. We've taken on that culture to where we need to get information, especially since we all got these things right here in front of us, and so we're scrolling 90% of the day. You can see two people sitting right next to each other scrolling on their phones instead of talking to each other, and they're getting their information from social media, from the media, from, oh, it was on CNN, it must be true, or it was on Fox, so it must be true. And so I do agree. Media, social media, and entertainment. Just today on my way from picking up the kids, get everybody in the car was going like we just it's stuck in our heads, especially like you said, ever since Sunday. And I was already rocking that to that song after everything that after he put it out, but that just made it relevant again. But that was the same thing last year. I was singing Usher half the year. I forgot half the Usher songs until the Super Bowl last year, and so I definitely agree. I want to. I'm looking at the time. I don't want to rush either, but I want to move on to the solution. And I want to start. I want to start with this question right here. How should the community look after breaking free from some of the patterns that we talked about today? It's just ideally, how would you like to see our community as a whole look?
I think we should see it as being more solution based, having actual conversations that build, not just talking about simplistic things and not social media things, but like, I need to understand how you are doing. I don't care about that stuff. I really don't care how your day went at work. I want to know how you doing, because I'm not gonna come up to your job and talk to your boss and like, hey, he needs some time off and all this other stuff. But what I need to know is how are you doing, and just sit up and converse, have a conversation to where we can establish some patterns. Like, okay, let's talk about whatever. Let's not look on our phones. Let's not talk about TV, because we can talk about that anytime. I think we have a bunch of superficial relationships that we try to make it seem like, oh, this is something that's of substance, but it's not. It's superficial because we talk about superficial things and we're both comfortable there. But sometimes I need to hear the hard questions from you. I need for you to challenge me to be better. And I think when we do that, when we not focus on the normal little social norms, I think we'll grow as a people, and we won't just come with just the minor things. We'll major in the majors, not the minors.
How should the community look after breaking free from these patterns? Man, it should look great, right? I'm gonna break it down to a smaller community, and then I'll expand it out if you want to. So, in my house, it is me, it's Shell, and it's Mister. Mister is our almost 8-year-old Morky, right? So, if in our house we're bringing in a bunch of negative patterns into our house, then we're gonna have chaos, right? So once we get to the point where we've breaking free from all of those negative patterns, we can have bliss in our home. I can come home and things are good. Shell is actually happy to see me come home and not just me happy to be at home. The dog's wagging his tail. He's been fed. He's been to the bathroom, yada, yada, yada. Right? There's enough food in the pantry, enough food in the refrigerator. I feel better about myself. Yes, I use the word feel, but just overall, things are good. I am working and growing on myself. I am not a burden onto anybody. Nobody is a burden, to me. And I think if you expand that out, that's what it would look like if we were broken free from these patterns. There wouldn't be disrespect. People would be able to effectively communicate with each other. The list could goes on and on and on and on. Like Coach mentioned polarities earlier. All of the negative things that we see in the community, all of those things, everything would be the exact opposite of that. So anything negative that you see in the community, when it comes to these patterns that we need to be broke from, then just flip it. And that's what the community would look like.
This is the easy question for me. They would actually look like a community. As I'm looking at this conversation that we're having, we've identified some things, and then we're looking at what hope looks like. But the piece that's in the middle is where the community has to focus their attention on. Because if they never focus their attention on the piece that's in the middle that identifies the concerns, right? And, focus on the hope that is before us, then we'll never get to the hope that's before us because we'll keep bypassing this piece that's in the middle. I'm only bringing that to the conversation because that's what we do in society. We talk a good game, but we're not going to do anything about it collectively. And what we believe are the people who are doing something about it are the people who are talking a good game. I'm not impressed by listening to what someone says. I'm more impressed by seeing what someone does. Like I've said before, and I'm going to continue to say, believe what a person says until their behavior shows up. Once their behavior shows up, believe that because that's the truth. What they're saying at that point is what they want you to believe, but the truth is found in the behavior. Until we come together and collectively do the work that is necessary for bringing us together as a community, then that's where we're going to struggle in seeing the community because none of us are going to know what it's look like. And what we're going to do is we're going to make up in our mind and we say, well, our community looks like this little pocket of resistance over here. And then you have this little pockets of resistance over here. Then you have this little pocket of resistance over here. And then next thing you know, you have several little pockets, right? They are communal, but we don't have a community. And that to me is what I believe the biggest concern is. So what we will look like is we will look like a community without the several pockets of existence. Too much talk, not enough action. When we actually get down to the point of acting, doing the action that it takes to obtain that, then we can get it. And in my opinion, that's what it looks like. It looks like us working together for a common cause. But we already know that all of us don't want the same thing.
And I think right there is for me is where the issue starts. Is we don't want the same thing, and therefore there's always someone that works in a counterintuitive towards the goal, the collective goal. Sometimes it's because I don't want what y'all want. Sometimes it's you didn't pick me to be in charge. Sometimes it's I can't do what I want to do. And the reality is change change is difficult. Becoming better is difficult, right? Becoming healthier is difficult. Not difficult as far as figuring out what to do all the time. Sometimes the answer is not that hard to figure out, but to actually implement it because I'm addicted to who I am. We're talking about that word again. I'm addicted to what I do. I'm addicted to doing what I want to do at all costs. And so the moment we start talking about collective, we have to start talking about sacrifice. Have to sacrifice some of the things that I do. Have to sacrifice some of my behaviors. We got to give up some of the foolishness because it doesn't shed a good light on us as a community, as a people. Therefore, it actually attacks the foolishness and the foolish behaviors we see. It's actually attacking progress. We think it is progress, but it's attacking progress. Some of your liberties, you don't need to have the liberty to say what you want to say because sometimes we say some of the stupidest stuff. It's like, and we don't think it hurts the community, but it does. We when we get up and we get in public and we speak, four brothers of up here of the same ethnicity. We get up there and say something foolish. We just got up here and just represented the men of our community in that manner. And now we just justified all the things that anybody says against us. And so so to me, when we start talking about what does it look like, it looks like first of all, I think it starts with when you talk about the thing in the middle. For me, the thing in the middle is the thing that's holding it together, that's bringing us towards our hope, and that would be the only one that we should have hope in. And so for me, it starts with the Most High. All right. And I think that's the easy answer, right? But what does it look like? It looks like a community that in our ways and in our living, we're trying to look more how the Most High wants us to look and walk more how He wants us to walk, right? And so we have to stand on that. And to me, I just believe that, not that you can excommunicate somebody from the community, but I just believe that in order for us to build, we got to start building who's willing to build. We have to start there, and let others attach on. I want to let's go to the next question, because I want to get to these solution questions. So social media, what role can social media play in helping us foster the image in which we're discussing, or can it?
It plays the same role it plays now in turning us into zombies. Like, I'm not joking when I say this. Like, we fill our ears with some of the most unprogressive stuff, right? I think, like I said before, we are a group of people that are in pursuit of information, right? But sometimes we become so information focused that we miss the knowledge that information can produce. And then just because we claim that we have knowledge, we miss the wisdom that knowledge is supposed to produce. So the constant pursuit of information keeps knowledge stagnant, because there's no way that I can employ all of the information that I'm pursuing. So I'm really only getting to the point of just pursuing information. But what if we use social media in the fashion to where that information that we're given is not only positive information that moves us in the right direction, but it's positive step-by-step instructions that teach us how to do the things that we're supposed to do, instead of just having us, like I'm telling you, like, you pay attention. It's like The Walking Dead today.
Can social media play a role? Yes, definitely with Coach. I think that we find ourselves, sometimes we gravitate towards what's popular or what's happening instead of what's actually beneficial. Sometimes social media may mean I gotta not look at the thing that everybody's looking at right now, but I gotta look at, okay, more things that are helping me better myself, calming me down, helping me relax. If I'm talking about meditation, but yet I can only talk about it, I don't understand it. Like, I had to go and I got so many books where I was reading this one, read a couple pages, then I read a couple pages over here, where I'm not gaining, like Coach was saying, no any knowledge. So I had to say, hold up, I got all these books. Let me take the time to focus on one thing, one book first. And let me gather this and work with this. And then I get to that. But as long as we're all over the place, like, y'all know me, I've got about 20 shows that I say I'm watching. Yeah, I'm watching this one. I'm watching that one. I'm watching this one. Like, okay, then you start thinking, like, hold up, no, that ain't happening on that show, because your focus is everywhere. Sometimes we need to channel our focus to where it's not all over the place, where we can actually decide to grow, rather than decide to keep our lives sporadic.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys have said so far. I also want to add in, I think that sometimes um it can just add to whatever you're already into, whatever you're going down. So, in the negative sense, if you're talking about some of these negative things that we got going on in our generation, or these generational paths, I think that if you see one or two or three of these things, and then next thing you know, you're being a constant algorithm, it's constantly feeding you things. I think that could be a huge problem, a huge problem. I also see it on the other end, whereas you can get into some cool stuff. And I watch all kind of cool stuff on social media. I'm okay with my time, I spend time. I spend a lot of time on social media. But I don't say I spend a lot. I don't spend a lot of time on it. There are times throughout the week or the weekend where I may spend a large amount of time on it. Some of it is business. Some of it is responding back to people. Some of it is checking on this. Some of it is, posting stuff for shows or groups and stuff like this. Other things is being entertained. I don't have a problem with people using social media for entertainment. There are people that use social media for groups and communities. You know, um, I'm in a group for Jeeps. I just got in a group that's called the Bearded Scallywags. It ain't nothing but a bunch of dudes with beards, right? And like these little hats. You know what I mean? And I just got in the community. It was just cool to be around other dudes, and maybe I might find some good treatments for my beard or something. So I think social media, we've been talking about this word polarities have came up a couple of times in this show. So I think this is another one of those situations where social media can play a role when it comes to positive or negative. It's just a tool, and how you decide to use it really shapes what's going to get fostered with all of this whole conversation.
Absolutely. I think when it comes to social media, where I think it's hard at is in order for the impact to be felt, you have to pretty much saturate social media enough that it reaches the people who want to see it, so that it begins to be a part of the algorithm. Oh Lord. Um so I'm thinking I got sidetracked. I'm sorry. Just keep my eyes off the chat. Uh so when we looking at social media, I think we take a community like this, and yeah, we might say we're not big on social media. A lot of us are like at that age to where we like being on social media, but we can live without it. I don't need it. I got stuff going on, so I'm whatever. But what if we took over social media? What if we continue to repost the stuff that we're putting out that it positively affects the change? What if we so when we talk about what yes, it can play a role, and to me, that's how it plays a role. We have a collective, got about got about 20 something people collectively that can just continue to saturate social media with the same information, with the same stuff. And I'm not saying it's gonna turn into a million views, but it'll start reaching people. And that's to me, that's how the growth in social media to take on an impact uh, can start. Um, I think I got time for one more. Uh, let's go to the next one. I really wanted to hit this one. What role can men and women play when it comes to the solution or to reaching that image?
My answer is yes.
My answer is take out everything after the N and me. I got to focus on me.
My answer is stop trying to separate men and women. That's the thing. Like, I mean, I don't want to beat it to death, but it is what it is. Every time you turn around, it is like this right here. For what? There is always a divide that keeps us separated. When we recognize that we were created to be better together, then we'll stop it. But going back to the whole social media thing, it gets clicks, the argument, so it keeps going. We are better together. Let's work towards that and stop all of the going back and forth.
Yeah, you know, I agree. I think that's what we see a lot of. Like I said, it's easy to pit men against women. It's easy to pit women against men because at the end of the day, we are different, but that's what makes us better together. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if we really worked together and looked out for each other's best interests and had the vision of the community and how that can be so much greater if we work together instead of in opposition, be great. So yeah, that's the role men and women can play, is start working against each other and start working together.
Absolutely. I think everybody took what my initial thought was. Um, and I purposely said men and women, right? Because that's how I view it. Not men or women, but men and women. But as y'all were talking, and since y'all already jumped on that, I'm gonna say men can get back to being leaders in the community, present in the community. All right. Um, and to be honest, once you start separating it as a man, can I really speak on what a woman needs to do to better our community? I can say what I would like to see in my family, what I want the woman in my house to look like and do. But in the community, right? I think we got to, as women, have to pick up that mantle and begin to speak to each other and unify. We have to unify on something better than the division. And so that it does bring us back full circle. But you see a lot of women are united. They have this girl thing to where they stand almost in opposition to men, and men got this thing to where the bros stand against the women, and so we end up back in full circles. But for me, I think if we get back to realizing our strengths in our community, men get back to mentoring young men, or how about let's get back into the home, and so this way we can mentor the men that we're making. We can be fathers and mentors in our own homes. Start there. Uh, whew, that's my take on it. Does anybody got anything else before we move forward? I love it. I love it. I love it. With that said, as we say here, this is our bittersweet moment, right? We've had a great conversation, but now it is time for our final thoughts.
Good evening, everyone. I am here to bring you my final thought for the evening. Tonight, we have been talking about discovering the keys to breaking generational paths. At the end of the day, we all at some point were raised by somebody, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. There are some good things that we were taught. There may have been some things that may not have been as well articulated, or some things that we could have learned from. But either way, it is part of the journey. It is part of the person we are today, and I think that before we look back and be so quick to judge where we got the information from, I think that we should start understanding that no one is perfect. We're all human, and most of us only give what we have to give. So if we would sometimes give people a little grace in the past, grace from our past, I think that would be a good thing. I think that we continue to work on ourselves so that we don't continue to pass those things down to the next generation. Certain behaviors, certain conversations, certain whatever it is you may call it. I think that if we continue to work on ourselves, then we can be a positive influence in the generations to come. So when they start talking about these generational things and these positive things that was passed down, maybe your can is the can that everybody goes to for the recipes. And that's my final thought.
That was I thoroughly enjoyed that. I think as we look at it, this particular question, discover the keys to breaking generational patterns. Throughout the continuum of time, there's only three aspects that we need to look at: the past, the present, and the future. I can spend a lot of time talking about and focus on the past if I want to, but if I'm only looking at the past and not necessarily pulling from the past the lessons to be learned and bringing them into the now, then I'm really wasting my time. I can look in the future, but the future is where hope exists. So I said all that to say that the only time that we have is now. And when it comes down to these perceived generational patterns, well, a generational pattern can change in any point in time whenever we make the decision to do so. And I think one of the biggest generational patterns that we need to change is the divide that exists within our community. If we take the time to focus on what is good and understanding where goodness come from and righteousness come from, if we take the time to focus on what that is and see how it is scripted for us to live our life from the inside out, then what we'll do is we will have better character, we will have better relationships, we'll have better family, we'll have a more holistic community. Don't get it twisted. The central nucleus of the community is the family. If we don't understand that part, if we're looking for anything outside of that to fill the community, then we're just going to be spinning our wheels, hoping for another savior to come, and we're only going to get one. And that is my final thought.
I love it. Discover the keys to breaking generational patterns. I think that when we look at this, I know for me, I looked at it inwardly. How can I change me and the bad behaviors, bad habits, or whatever that I have that aren't productive to me in society, within family, within where my community or whatever. How can I change those things? And I think first and foremost, you got to one, understand the root cause. What's the root cause of my behavior? Not anybody else, my behavior. Why do I do the negative things? Why am I so attracted to things that take me away from my mission, my moment, whatever it may be, and replace those addictions with healthy mechanisms like exercise, writing, music, or whatever. But you got to replace those things so that you're now doing something different, now moving a different way, and add meditation in there sometime, because meditation, it is healthy. It is something that that will benefit you in the long run, to where you can rest your mind, not just your body. And also healthy social interactions, whether it be on social media, whether it be with friends, family, or whatever. Have healthy interactions. It can't be, I'm ready for an argument, I'm ready to stand up for what's right, and all these be in the moment. No, sometimes you need some healthy interactions to where you can sit and listen to a person, or where you can sit and just release. Sometimes you listen, sometimes you release, but you can't be doing both at the same time. And create boundaries to remove temptations. And I don't care whether the temptation is that show that you watch, or something out of the liquor cabinet, or those people that you are around. Sometimes you got to create a boundary to that temptation, to where you understand that this creates a negative impact on me, that when I watch it, I know when I'm listening to that music, it's going to hype me up to do something stupid. It's going to hype me up to do something non-productive. And establish new routines, new routines and new structures. And last but not least, be patient with yourself. You are not a finished product. And be patient to know that, man, you might not have got it this time, but on next time, just continue to get better and better and better. And then when you establish those things, you realize that now I'm creating patterns within myself that's going to show up in our community.
All great final thoughts. Very well said. Nothing really to add to it. I'm just going to be a big proponent of, let's start working on ourselves. Let's stop rejecting our community growth by worrying about how we can be included. Right? Let's just be a part of the solution. Let's do what we can do. That's really all all I can add to it. It's really all I can say to it. Man, I'm glad we had this conversation. It was a good conversation, if you ask me. But let's not leave this conversation and I feel like I missed something. Let's not leave this conversation and forget the tools that were given to us by this great panel. But with that said, we got more things going on this week. Let us tune in tomorrow for our Hearts of Women. I believe is at 10:30 Eastern. All right, 10:30 Eastern. So let's join our women over there. Let's support. I know that they're gonna bring that fire. You ain't got to worry. Bring your notebooks because they some intelligent people. So I'm excited for that conversation. Don't forget Tuesday we have the Coach's Corner. And I know I'm always missing something when it comes to these. So am I missing anything, Coach? Help me out. I want to make sure they informed.
Yeah, the big thing right now is tomorrow morning, Hearts of Women at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time right here. Of course, we got the TikTok Live at the 11:30 on Sunday morning. Bible study at 2 p.m. Coach's Corner on Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So yeah, join the community, man. You get all of it. Crystal's gonna keep you loaded up with the information. She don't let us forget. She keep me straight too.
Hey, with that said, we love y'all. Thank you, chat, for keeping it live. Thank you, my brothers, for holding me up. And let's stay available for our community. That's all I got.